So if you can turn your attention inwardly, although there is really no inward and outward, but invite yourself to rest. Relax your shoulders, your hands, your arms. Relax your belly. Allow your body mind to relax into presence. So that you may notice that in your experience, there is no separation. Whatever appears to you effortlessly. Not out of any particular place. It is as if the totality is appearing to you moment by moment. And it reveals to you the spaciousness of awareness, the spaciousness of a seamless experience that has no words for it. Which is the undeniability of awareness. Thoughts appear to you. Whichever shape they take, whichever expression they manifest, they appear to you in the same way that the sensation of your feet on the ground appears to you. In the same way that the sound of the rain appears to you. One seamless appearance. And you are the globality, the wholeness, the seamless awareness. That effortlessly manifests all events in nature, all events in the mind. out of its inner design and inner freedom. In this seamless awareness, there is nothing that you need to do, because it is doing what needs to get done. And you are this entirety. You are the activity and the stillness. The activity being just a reflection of the stillness. And within this stillness, there is nothing outside of itself. There isn't another or anything else outside of itself, outside of yourself. Thus, the impossibility of judgment. Because there are no two. There isn't aspect A that judges aspect B. Because A is B and B is A. And B and A are the same reality. Just different names. Like the two sides of a coin. One side is side A, and the other side is side B. But it's the same coin. Whatever you resist persists until you realize the falsehood of the resistor and the falsehood of that which is being resisted. Like in the ocean, there aren't two drops of water that resist each other. It is not possible. We label the world, we divide it in 10 million names. And we fall prey to the names we believe. The names refer to real differences. Like we divide the rainbow in infinite colors, believing that the various colors exist independent of each other and independent of the white light. In fact, it is a whole, a totality. And the understanding that the name does not refer to the thing, and the understanding that there is one totality, one reality, restores order to the body-mind that's been divided by the various names and labels. So your path is a path of return, a descending path to the source, or an ascending path to the source. It is rather a descending path because it is a process of letting go. And letting go requires your understanding that there is no personal doer or personal chooser or personal winner or loser. So that the hand that is gripping, that is holding, is seen to be the hand of a ghost. The ghost has no hands. So you can follow the path of least resistance. Like the river follows the stream bed effortlessly. You need to be somebody to make an effort. But no effort doesn't require any doing. It's your natural state, your natural way. Like without any effort, the surface of the pond reflects the sunshine. And supports the body of a duck effortlessly. It is when you are without effort that the understanding may be available to you. the understanding of your totality, your oneness and the wholeness of the entire matrix as one consciousness, one reality. You can divide an apple into many slices. But when you put all the slices back together, you get one apple. One reality. You can divide it into many, but it remains one, because it's one apple, one reality. Okay. So if there are any questions.
Magdi.
Salut, Shiva.
Salut mon vieux. Attends, je me mets le... Tu es encore un peu dans ton espace très profond là, de méditation, hein?
Ça va?
Alors que moi, je suis en train de faire 3000 trucs en même temps. Comme d'habitude. I'm sorry, I have to speak. I'm sorry. Sorry, everybody. Hello, everybody. Sorry. I was saying Magdi was still in his deep space of contemplation while I'm like, as usually, doing 17 things in the same time while enjoying satsang, always missing a sort of a little moment when I have to run out doing something else. And I was very touched by what you said about no effort in the meditation right now. You said, like, you know, there's no effort. And it's really beautiful to see how everything flows in this life right now.
Yes.
And yet there is a tremendous amount of activity just to fill the Sangha in. I'm sort of building an organic community garden. I'm also fully renovating the little pavilion in which I live, which hasn't been inhabited for sort of 5 years or so. So there's a lot of stuff to do. And I'm a creative. I've always been an artist. So I just want to say this as an explanation for the Sangha. I know you know, Magdi. So there is a lot of, you know, joy in creating. And obviously when you have, let's say,
By the way, this is one of
ah, oui, c'est beau. Merci. I love the frame you guys did. Very nice. Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. It's hard to see with
yeah,
this. The
I know
colors are like
it needs more light. Yes, yes.
it looks like
It
a
needs more.
virus or something. some enlightened version of the coronavirus, right? Anyway, so the point is that, as always with creative projects, and I learned that through my entire life, there is a necessity to balance effort and now, if I'm not to balance effort, but let's say there's a necessity to pace oneself. Because if you do too much too fast, you're going to spoil the painting, you're going to spoil the work, you're going to overwork it. In the same time, there's a certain knowing of learning how to harvest the intuition and work at the right time, at the right place and stuff. And now this type of work is obviously involving a lot of physical endeavor, like, you know, digging, like we spent a whole week building a pig fence around the property with barbed wire, which is not, you know, for the faint of heart. And there is sort of a, you know, there is sort of like the creative vision of seeing the barbed wire on a fence and seeing the whole property being safe of pigs and the job done. And there's an easy, I mean, the old days I would have said, oh my God, I hope we are getting it done by Thursday or so, you know? And I would have put some sort of effort on my team and stress on my team saying, hey, we really got it done by Thursday, you know? And I myself would have been in a state of like, can we make it? And, you know, in those years when I was an event guy, I would be going crazy if we wouldn't fulfill the time, you know, the good old German style. We said we do it by Thursday and, you know, and so what I'm getting at is this sort of energy between the moment when you conceive something creatively and the moment when it's done, and the surveillance of keeping it going. And I know you can talk about that with your you know, construction job. The energy it takes to deal with people, to make sure they're working right, they're not doing the wrong thing, and constantly guiding and supervising and directing, and also physically really working, and yet not being in a state of tension or over-efforting or, you know, like, so one of the guys who's working with me has made like a bunch of mistakes yesterday, and I just realized it. And I realized how I'm getting into a sort of like, fuck, I told him, you know, I mean, this is the third time, like, what's wrong with the guy and stuff, you know? And so you're going into these sort of like efforting, resisting modes. And I just feel, and especially with humans, I mean, you know, and I don't even have to talk about Corona and whatever, but just sort of like how to deal with ignorance in myself, in others, and how to be in this energy field of getting the job done, whether or not that's a painting or an organic garden or a building or an apartment you renovate, and having that sort of balance between, well, the obvious extreme is no pain, no gain, right? That's what we all are sort of brainwashed by, which is the separatist idea. So if I don't make an effort, if I don't force myself, I'm not going to get a good result or not a good enough result. And so on the other hand is this sort of like everything's free flowing and, you know, my hippie friends, here we go, it's all good. Whether or not it's Thursday or Monday doesn't matter, which we know can create also problems. So I'd like you to talk to that a little bit, like effort on the level of working in community and that type of stuff. Yeah, would that make sense?
Yes, yes. So yeah, I mean, in life there is all sorts of activities. We build homes. We, you know, plant fruits, vegetables. We harvest honey. You know, there's a lot of, you know, you build a fence to keep, you know, certain, to protect your property, etc. I'd like to sort of offer the model that although there can be activity on the surface, inwardly there is peace. So although there may be effort, a physical effort to even to drive to go to the market to pick up something that you need, requires activity. One could say effort. Yeah. The thing is, there is activity. Well, behind the activity, there isn't a personal self. There is an activity that is being directed by intelligence, that's being directed by the situation. You sort of, there is an understanding about the situation. And you may have a Tuesday deadline. I don't know, but there are cases where there is deadline. So then the situation requires a certain response. So, but this sort of effort doesn't have behind it ignorance. It is, the effort is coming from either a joy to create something, you know, like today we were doing some gardening, Tara and I, there was digging, but there was something we wanted to do and we were enjoying to do it. Although there were times when I was digging and running into a root, and there was definitely an effort to get that, to get through, to get, you know, the hole large enough. So there can be activity that's inspired by your love, by your interest, by also, you know, your sense of togetherness, your sense of community. I mean, sometimes I recall when I lived in Virginia, there would be times where there would be a snowstorm and people will get up of their house, get out, and they will help each other to get the car out of the, so there's a sense of community sometimes that drives you to do effort. So the key thing to understand about effort is that it's important to be watchful that you don't come from any sense of a fear, an emotion, a sense of lack, or that your happiness depends on, you know, if you fail, oh my goodness, you know, you're going to be miserable.
So that's absolutely not the case.
Oh no, I'm just talking generically.
Generally, you mean?
Generically, yeah, I'm talking generically to the
to the sangha. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the effort in general. You know, that if so, there can be mental, physical effort, but just behind that appearance, there is joy.
Yeah, yeah. Not
And
only
in
behind
terms
the
of,
appearance.
yeah.
I said not only behind the appearance.
Yes, right. Yes, no, with the appearance of like we're, may
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
one may
Yeah,
take a picture
right.
of the
Right.
activity, and the activity may seem to
Right.
be, wow, these guys are really, working hard. Now, in terms of being with others, you mentioned ignorance. You mentioned being with some people, and there is ignorance.
Or maybe let's say relative ignorance, or a relative ignorance in certain moments.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like full power ignorance, you know what I mean? Sort of partial.
Yes. I like the model that we are all sort of in the same boat, rowing or having various functions.
Okay.
Various functions in the same boat. It's true that some may not have an understanding. I may not have an understanding about your function, but
right.
but because you are on the same boat, your love and my love are for the same thing. So
right.
so if I appear to be foolish or ignorant and so on, because we are on the same boat with the same interest,
Right.
there is love, you say. There is love.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so, and that's more like the model about ignorant versus less ignorant. I mean,
you know what I find, what has helped me tremendously, because I have to say, with I remember the story was the last place I left, and how I said to my mom, and I don't want to go into the details, my friends, so I'm just generally saying, like, my behavior is normally very outspoken, and I don't want to say forceful, but certainly not beating behind the bush or whatever. Is that the expression? I mean, sort of like, oh no, I don't know. So I normally say what my piece. And I ran into sort of psychological. The people I rented from the last place had pretty severe psychological problems. And
sorry to interrupt, Stephen. The thing is, you can, depends on where you are coming from in what you are sharing. It's really like what's behind the scene. What's your intention? What is
right. No, let me just quickly finish, because all I wanted to say is that in the old days, only like 6 months ago, I would have really been confrontational about it. And I said this to my mother. I said, like, over like 3 months period of really like quite heavy stuff, I did not once react from a person. I let everything. Every time I would get another injurious email, I would just write back, "I love you and I wish you well." And I didn't take the bait. And I see this now in this new environment, is that when people are tired or when they are afraid, then they are in what I call partial ignorance. And I can include myself there, maybe myself too, to some degree. Is so when we are in fear, or when we are super tired, or when we have pain in our body, people tend to be, not their best self, not their highest self. Then that fucks up their communication, and they throw stuff at you, maybe or maybe not, or at themselves. And so when that happens, and it happened a tiny little bit with this new landlady I have, who is really a sweetheart, I just step aside. I have to sort of like be the wind, be a willow, be, flexible. Don't automatically come with, bang, this is the reality of truth or whatever. And then often it just resolves itself without even any me, the character Shiva, having to do or to say anything. And like within a day, it's often completely resolved, you know, or people come along and they're like, oh, I'm so tired. I was so tired. I'm sorry. I was a little rough or whatever. If I would have said in that moment, this is too much, you're too rough, we would have had a big fight or something, probably. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So
Right.
I feel that this sort of being without effort, being present, being like the water or like the wind, and not having to prove one's power, being, you know, rather on the humble side. I mean, I can't believe I'm actually saying that.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean?
There's only one power, and it's not my personal power, of course.
Exactly.
So,
like, beautiful.
I mean, so that can be the guiding, you know, God's light, God's power, God's wisdom, and it's all God's doing, God's creation. So from that perspective, there's only, yes, God only. So there's one thing for certain, and that is the reality of reality of consciousness. And that's always, you can always depend on that. Now, in terms of behavior, thoughts, feelings, you know, you can't always depend on them. Sometimes they are not the proper guide.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And you know what also helps me a lot, which I never used to be able to do, is to stop.
Yes.
and just say, oh, okay, so what? You can't finish this now, or
yes.
You know, you wanted to finish it, but something else happened, you couldn't finish it, and being able to leave it half done, happily, yeah. and really saying, yes, I envision this amazing organic garden, but I'm already happy now,
yes,
without the garden. So everything I add on to my already happy now is going to be another addition to happiness, but not the fulfillment of a non-existing happiness. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that helps a lot to take the effort out also, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Living gracefully, I think that's what you're talking about, like living as the expression of peace, of joy, of happiness. There's right. Grace in living as that, rather than seeking that or needing that or struggling to get that, you know.
Right.
And
sorry, go ahead.
And living as happiness, as the peace, as intelligence, cannot be personal feat. It's not like my, you know, look at me. It's more a recognition of, one way of saying it, of God's peace, of God's happiness, of God's freedom, of God's bounty that is manifesting through you, you know. So then you are like sort of a channel. You're the expression, you see, and all your deeds and your thoughts are an expression, and they carry that, they have that perfume, they have that imprint.
The rake of God. To say how in English you say rake also for somebody who is completely uncontrolled and wild.
No, I did not.
Like it's British English. You say guy is a total rake, you know.
Oh, okay.
It's also the rake in the garden, so it's a joke. Yeah. The rake of God.
God is the gardener, you know.
No, exactly. Well, that's great.
And the garden, you know, in the garden.
Yeah. And you know what I'm also coming to, which I find is so beautiful, is that in those days of separation, the energy deployed through me by God was always completely adamant about beauty and art. Mm-hmm. And as much as I detested the so-called Homo sapiens, I mean, you know, the difficulties I had with people due to my upbringing and stuff, I was always completely in love with every part of art, mm-hmm. human created art, and also beauty, natural beauty, gardens and stuff, nature, yeah. landscapes. trees. And so it feels like now there is a synergy. It's like it's coming together because there is no more separation. And there is the beauty in a human being and the species that we are, is that we are conscious of being conscious, and being conscious that we are one with everything that exists. And so everything interacts with us and we are interacting with everything. And yet we're having this creative ability to create, for instance, a garden and to be the guardian of these plants and make sure they live together happily, and you know, animals and stuff. And I think that is such an amazing beauty, so that you come to actually say, hey, we are life artists. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It doesn't matter what we create. So it's
no, the variety and the multiplicity and the differences that you see in the world, in the way people think, behave, act, they're like the colors of the rainbow. And all the colors of the rainbow refer to the white light. And there is a synthesizing of the colors of the rainbow into the white light.
You mean the adding together of all the colors, and so that they become white again?
So, right. When the white light hits the prisma, it diffuses in multiple colors.
Right.
But this also the multiple colors going back through the prism and returning to the white light. And that synthesization,
okay, the
synthesis occurs within you, in the core of your being. So in the core of your being, you are the synthesizer. You are the synthesis.
I love you, Magdi. This is so beautiful. Thank you. So beautiful. C'est trop beau, hein? C'est pas vrai. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, my love. Ciao, 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 everybody.
So any questions?
Hello, Magdi. How are you today?
Marga. Hello, Marga.
Hi. I just had a little question, but it seems like in the body-mind, along the way, emotions come like the weather, and they're not traceable. We can try to trace them, which seems unnecessary. But sometimes, you know, it's like a joyful flow, and other times it's just sort of a like emotional achiness, but not attributable to any cause. And it passes and joy comes again. I'm just curious about sometimes those shifts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And whether it's necessary to nail it down or just let it pass like the weather.
Yes. So, Marga, in a way, everything in our experience is like the weather. There is no experience that is different from the weather. It's all impersonal. It's all equal in that there are appearances. They're just sounds and shapes and vibrations and expressions, dances, movements. Like the wind, you could say, how the wind moves, like barometric pressure. It's all equal in that it is all impersonal. It's all like the weather. Now, our natural state, maybe I want to use that word, which is actually not a state, our reality is beyond description. You cannot, there are no words for it. When we refer to the weather, we're referring to, let's say, the activity or the dance or the flow or the movement of our true nature within itself, like currents within the ocean. It's a movement within the ocean. So all activities, all experiences, which we can refer to as the weather, are just like the current, like movement of currents within the ocean. Now you're referring to some slightly, some weather aspects in your experience that are emotions, but untraceable. You can't trace them. Usually an emotion, a negative emotion, you can trace it to the belief that I am Marga, that I am a person, that I, meaning consciousness, is separate, and therefore something is at stake, something is lacking, something may happen. But yes, there are some negative emotions. I wouldn't emphasize word emotion, but negative feelings, I say, that you cannot trace. And you can consider them as being not your own whirlpool, not your own belief that you are a mortal body mind. Rather, there is, let's say, the general belief that consciousness is separate and limited. And you are not excluded from that effect, although you may not necessarily have that sentiment about being a separate self. You may still be subject to sensing within your own body-mind a certain reaction, which is more the effect of the global ignorance that we share as a human race. The way to deal with these negative emotions or feelings when they arise where you cannot trace a cause is not to look for a cause. You don't need to look for a cause, but rather consider yourself to be a water bucket without a bottom, so that experience, that weather that comes to you, isn't retained. It sort of flows, diffuse. It is diffuse in your experience. In other words, you need to be watchful not to personalize it, not to make it your negative feeling. It is not yours. In fact, there is nothing that is yours as Marga, and everything is yours as the one reality. But you have to be watchful not to make this experience yours as Marga, because then you will get the impression that there is a problem. And the impression that there is a problem is how the sense of separation creates and maintains itself. Also, there may be still within your body-mind, more within your feeling state than within your understanding, some ways in which you, at the feeling level, you get triggered without knowing what was a trigger. And there is no need for you to know the trigger. What matters more is that you are like a bucket without a bottom, that you do not retain it or personalize it. A good example of that, I think I shared it a couple of times in satsang, but many years ago I was in a group meeting, and there was this woman in the meeting that was sitting sort of in a circle in a way. It was couches, and for some reason I felt irritated. I felt some negative feeling, and I was looking at that, what's going on, and I realized that it was coming from her or directed towards her. But I had never met her before. I hadn't even said a word to this person. I didn't even know what they looked like. Because we don't in the meeting. It was a meditation meeting. It wasn't. It's like what they call the dialogue. And it was very powerful. And so I couldn't just sort of brush it away, because it was really upsetting me. And after a while, I realized I had like a sort of a flash that she reminded me of my aunt when I was a young boy. I had, some unpleasantness. And at that moment, for some reason, I think maybe it was the color of her dress and how she was seated. It triggered a parallel, with when I was a young boy, and I was really upset at this woman in the meeting. And in the moment I realized that, the whole thing, of course, dissolved. I realized, it's somehow it all dissolved. So this is an example of some aspects of of your emotive being, your somatic being, that has some memories that you may not be aware of. And they don't really matter, because the whole idea is not to become a perfect body-mind. The purpose is to recognize your true nature, to recognize God. The body-mind is what it is. It has some imprints. So you don't need to figure out what is causing this feeling, but be with the feeling as the sky is with the clouds.
It's interesting the way you said recognizing the parallel helped dissolve it.
Yeah, it just, that's how it happened. I mean, I'm not saying that it is important to recognize the parallel in order to dissolve it. I'm just was just sharing that there are memories within the body. That was an example of them, where it was buried, and here it somehow got triggered. And in this particular case, yes, there was a recognition and it dissolved. Another very interesting, just coming to mind, that I remember walking once on the side of the street, and there is this car passing by, and as this car was passing by, I looked over and there was this person looking at me. And I had this sort of, again, this experience, this sensory experience. It's at the feeling level, where I was sort of being looked at, like I'm sort of a self-judgment. I don't know if you know what I mean, but sometimes, I remember somebody look at me and I feel that, that am I good enough? And at that moment, for some reason, this got triggered as I saw this person looking at me. And at that moment, in a flash, I had the experience of being the person in the car looking, not just the person on the side of the road being looked at. I had the experience of I was the one looking, and I know in that moment, at least it was, I'm just saying words about it, but the experience was not a verbal experience, not a mental experience. It was a flash. I know that often I look out the window and I see people walking on the side of the road, but I'm not judging them. I'm just looking. So at that moment, I realized that I was carrying, somehow my body was carrying a falsehood. That the falsehood being that this person is judging me, while in fact, most likely they were not, because I had the experience of being that person in the car, looking without judging at somebody on the side of the road. Anyways, the point I want to make is that there are, or they may be within our somatic realm, the realm of the feelings, all sorts of stuff that may not be correct. But your business is not to go hunting for that within your feeling state, but rather life as you are living, sometimes it brings some things up, some irritation, some a judgment, personal judgment, judgment of the other. It's at these moments that you can let's say, deal or contemplate the feeling. You don't need to be looking for them. They will find you.
Very good. Yes, in both of your examples, it's like it just sort of popped out of the larger picture of, and then I love that you could see you, which is always, well, which is like the lack of separation when we're the other.
Yes, right.
At the same time.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean,
Thank you.
we are we are the same water. We're made out of the same drops of water, and some, our temperature of 32 degrees, some 33 degrees, some 34, or that. But there are, of course, differences, but in our reality, we are one. And here we are talking together. And in this talking together, we are one. And in feeling each other and sensing each other, and in our being, we are one. And we couldn't talk to each other if we were truly separate. We could not communicate at all if separation was real. We couldn't speak about the ocean, although we're not sitting by the ocean, nor myself nor you, I assume. So, but yet we can talk about the ocean because we are one. And because we are one as the ocean, and we are one as a human species, and we are one as consciousness. The differences between us is a mind difference, is like imaginary differences. There are no differences. There are no differences between us. It's like if you are dreaming and you dream of an elephant and a giraffe. The elephant and the giraffe, you could say they are different. But because, in fact, they are your dream mind, they are the same as you, the dreamer's mind, your mind, the mind of the dreamer. Similarly, there are seeming differences between us, but not in fact, not in the truth, not in reality. And it's important to understand that, so that we can unblock the love and remove the obstacles of in the face of love, in the face of our great sympathy for each other.
It's the opposite of solitary confinement. You're making me see. In this isolating time, we're not really isolated at all.
No, because you cannot isolate consciousness. And the body has no will of its own. The body never is complaining. The body doesn't say, "Oh, God, you are keeping me too much indoors." Its body is is an experience that is your weather. It is your weather. You are not subject to the weather. So confinement is when you identify yourself with somebody, with the body. Then you say, "Oh, the body is confined, therefore I am confined. The body is limited, therefore I am limited." But that's not very true, because that I am the body is just a belief that is unfounded belief that you are the body, because you don't have any evidence that you are the body. It's just something that you've somehow inherited this belief somehow. But when you look at it, you find that it's not true. You cannot define yourself as the body, because in your experience, the body is an experience that you're having, that you're perceiving, whether you perceive it as sensations, images, whichever way you perceive feelings. These are perceptions that you perceive. They're like weather-like perceptions. They're equal perceptions. And but you are the reality that perceives. You see, you are not the object or the image or the thought. You are that effortless transparency. That you are like the wide open sky, the space, the space of being, the space of awareness, you see. And that's really what you are. That's really what is, what is what we say, what is, it is. When we say it is, we're not saying the table is. And the isness of the table, if there is any isness to the table, the isness of the table is the one isness, one isness. There is one isness because it's all interconnected. Like when you look in the ocean, you see a current, you say, "Oh, this current is," there is a current, it's called a current or a table or a chair, but it's interconnected. The current is interconnected with everything in the ocean. Same like the table is interconnected with everything in the universe. It's interconnected. And the interconnections in the realm of appearance, in the phenomenal realm, in the cosmic realm, in the galactic realm, this interconnection is just like like you're inside of a sphere, and on the inside of the walls, and the inside walls of the sphere is the cosmos. And it's an image. Imagine a sphere, but it has no infinite diameter, and no center. And on the inner surface of that sphere is the cosmos. Your entire experience is there. All the minds, not just your mind, all minds are there. And the spaciousness of the sphere, which has no center and infinite diameter, that's reality. That's consciousness. And that's what we refer to as I. So I is that sphere with infinite radius and no center. And the world of appearance are like the appearances on the screen of awareness. A better metaphor is, I think, the currents within the ocean. But, every metaphor sort of gives you a little hint in the direction that we are speaking about, because in fact, it's not possible to speak with 100% exactitude about reality, because it is reality that's speaking, and reality already knows itself. So who is explaining what to whom, I mean, anyways, I didn't mean to go there. I'm just sort of speaking on the side,
It's very trippy. Thank you.
Okay, Marga. Yeah. So contemplate that when you are, let's say, in the house, in a room right now, for example, that the room is appearing to you, right? It's appearing to you. And see if you can sort of get a sense of that this room, this image, this perception is appearing in you. You see, so you are not inside of it. You're not inside the room. The room is appearing to you. So in a way, the room is inside of you.
Last summer, when I've been coming to meet here, and I had that, I mean, you've said words like this before, but it's like at one point it made me like outside of myself. Like the eyeballs actually weren't in here. And it felt like the space was inside me. It was a moment, and I'm not holding on to it, but it was enough to shake some things loose.
Yes.
In perception. So thank you. It's reminding me of that today, of kind of the
right.
And it is trippy. I mean, I was joking, but it's trippy. It's like,
yeah, I know. It is trippy. Right. Yeah, it is. I understand what you are saying. And when we go along with the current of understanding, when we go along, when we're not holding back, we sort of follow. Then the perspective of the mind, the positions of the mind become looser. The position, which is from belief structures, gets a little bit looser and dislodged, and there can be sort of a sense of, whoa, it's trippy. I'm not in the room. The room is in me, and but because you're interested and you're going along, then it's a good tripping. The trip is a good trippy. And also, we sense the freedom, we sense the peace, we sense the happiness, the peace And so that allows us to go along. It helps us to go along. See, you never experience something out there. You're always experiencing your experience. You're always perceiving your perception, and your perception is the tapestry of your perception and the tapestry of consciousness are one. You're perceiving your perception, and the fabric of your perception and the fabric of consciousness are one. You don't perceive something out there. Even if a thought is insisting it's out there, that very thought, you're experiencing that very thought. The fabric of that thought and the fabric of awareness, that which knows the thought, are one. So the known and the knowing and the knower are one. So there isn't an out there. There's just beingness. I really no words for it. It's just whole, to one wholeness and totality. And this I is this totality. And this totality is transparent in that there aren't opposites. There are no opposites. There are no two. There aren't two within the wholeness. It's all this intimacy. It's all one intimacy, the intimacy of being. Anyways, thanks, Marga.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay. Any questions?
Magdi?
Hello, Zoe.
Hi. Okay, so my question, I wanted clarification on these two experiences you were talking about. I heard you talk about one of them before, but was that before you had full recognition, or were you talking about like that irritation can still arise like that?
That was the first sharing about the meeting was about maybe 20 years ago, and the other sharing of being on the side of the road was maybe 25 years ago. But what was your question, Zoe? When was that, or?
Yeah, basically, I was just wondering if that was prior to your full.
Okay, yes, I see.
Yeah.
You know, Zoe. So, because the body, all body minds are multi-layered, in that they're multifaceted. There is a lot. Is an infinite impressions within each body mind, but also because a body mind isn't a particular body mind. It is at the local level, it appears particular, but from a non-local level, it is interconnected with more than just at the local level. It's interconnected with the entire cosmos, the entire galactic realm. But from at the local level, irrespective of your full understanding and your full stabilization in the comprehension of consciousness, of the reality of being. This does not mean that the body-mind becomes like, 100% pure water, It doesn't mean that. No, we don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. We don't know. I mean, I would say that in my current experience, I think maybe I'll rely on Francis's way of saying it, that you're 99.99% all is well. But I will not exclude the possibility. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow I will go to a meeting and there something. It's possible. How I don't have a crystal ball. It is possible that something about my friend in high school when I was 10-year-old or 12-year-old or 17-year-old gets triggered, in a meeting that I may have tomorrow. You see.
That's very beautiful. Thank you. Yes, at that and explaining that it's really the universal.
It's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there are retentions in the body. There are in the body mind. There are retentions. There are sometimes I say when there is a scar in the body, you cut yourself. After a while, there you have a scar. But okay, maybe 5 years, 10 years. After 20 years, you say there is no more scar. But if you bring a good pair of magnifying glass, you may still see some discoloration in the skin, right? I mean, it's possible, but this doesn't matter. It's not about having a completely scar-free body-mind. It's not about that. It's about peace and happiness. So
yeah, and the peace and happiness can hold whatever appears.
Yes,
yeah.
Something appears to you in the moment. It appears, you don't know what it is. It's just suddenly, boom, there you are, okay? And so how you are with it? How are you with it? I would say that there is a certain application. We apply ourselves to be with what appears to us as transparent as possible, not resisting, not seeking. There comes a point where this becomes effortless. In other words, there is nothing, you're doing nothing. There is no effort, there is no activity, in fact. But there is so something may arise to you and you perceive it without doing any effort as completely impersonal. There comes a point where you have to do an effort to go back to being a person. So what I'm trying to say is the following. Up to a certain point, we're doing an effort to be as consciousness. At some point, you have to do an effort to be a person. Why do it? It'd be foolish to do so. It'd be foolish to do so, right? If you have a nice pair of shoes, why you want to do an effort to go walk in the mud? You don't do that. But it's important until it is effortless to live as consciousness, to live from a place of love, of intelligence, of globality, of fairness, of taking the position that this other person is my very self, is my very self, the same consciousness, the same being. So it's important to do the sadhana, to follow the teaching, and then at some point it takes over. The teaching takes over.
Thank you, Magdi. Okay. Beautiful.
Okay, so, and we don't need to know how. We really don't need to. We don't need to know how. You know, who cares? Whichever way, who cares? Who cares when and where and how? You know, because it's a journey of love. You see, it's a journey of love. We are here out of love. We are looking at these questions and contemplating because we realize how precious it is. We take it at heart, and so that's why we do it, because no one is forcing us. We do it because we understand it's really precious, and of course we love that which is precious, and then we have to live also that way.
Magdi?
Yes, hello, Kelly.
Hi.
Hey, Kelly.
My question is, were you aware of when the teaching took over your life and your recognition, or was it more after?
It varies from person to person. So I just, to answer your question, I want to make sure that I'm being clear that there is, it's not, I'm not a model. I'm just going to share my experience, but every one of us has their own way, you see.
Right.
So in my case, I came upon an insight, which was, it doesn't need to be, but in my case it was an earth-shaking insight that everything that I believed and everything that I thought and what I imagined myself to be in my family, my brother, all of that, in a flash, I saw that this was just complete illusion, unreal, and at the same time, I experienced the glory. I had no words for it, and it was like, now I would say the wholeness of God, the glory of consciousness. And so that's how I came on the path. I came on the path when I was in the university. I was always somehow troubled because I grew up in a troubled way, as a young boy, and then as a teenager and young adult. I was in a troubled way, in the family and other things. But that's how, that was my world. I mean, we each have our world, it was my world. And then I was popped out of my world. There was no longer my world. There was, so then I became, I guess, in my case, I wasn't interested in truth. I sort of suddenly became possessed by the truth. And yes, so.
Did you say you suddenly became?
Yeah. Yes. What was your question, Kelly? I forgot. Your question was about when did I finally come to the peace, or?
Yeah, I asked if you recognized.
Yes,
you were
there was an immediate recognition.
But you went on the path afterwards. Is that correct?
I had a long journey, which I didn't even know about it. A long journey of, I think it's the vasanas, life. I was in a
Yes.
very turbulent place in life. So there were many years of contemplation. I was doing Zen practice, and you can call it Zen practice, but I was completely into contemplation of truth. And I was contemplating what is happiness and how come, where is the happiness? And so I was, so yes, there were many years of that. And working and being married, having children, and divorce, and dealing with various situations in business and in family and brothers and mom and all of that. So there were aspects of my purification, let's say, or my understanding was a combination of sitting and also living life. And in life, I was very interested in the full peace, the complete peace, the total peace,
The complete enchilada.
complete enchilada. Yes. And so although I had a full insight into, and many other insights over the years, there was still something troubling me, you know. It changed, but the topic of what was troubling me changed. And it sort of seemed to be thinning out, but it wasn't fully thinned out. Even when I was in the Zen tradition and I was doing the koans, and I still felt that there was something not fully settled. And then, I think I shared with some people that when I met Francis, I had some questions for him. And as I was listening to the questions and trying to understand what he was saying, and I thought I'm still sort of looking at what he was saying, and then I realized that it had all come together. And so from then on, there was no more that that thing that's bothering me,
Yeah.
Right. So that thing that bothered me was no longer. And that's when I started, sharing with people and speaking and, figuring how to share, how to speak, how to talk, together, how to talk about this. Because it has to be, it's not, there is maybe a certain art, or I don't know, and I'm not much of an artist, but there's a certain way of speaking about this that but of course the speaking is only part of the the sharing. I mean, I think what we are sharing is our wholeness, the love. That's the key. That's the very key. And how we're interacting together also, that we are very good friends,
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I sort of, I realize everybody has their own path.
Yes.
And it seems to me that perhaps recognizing the truth happened before I understood all this, and it's more like I found this was found, and it's helping to remind me how to stay awake.
Yes.
Not to, because there's still Yeah, I guess I'm not like Edgar Tolle. Like, you know, some people have like an instantaneous thing and then their whole life has changed.
You know, I like to think of the path as being both sudden and gradual.
Yeah.
So it's a combination. It's both sudden and gradual. Whenever you have an understanding, it is sudden, but
Yes.
you arrive to many of the understandings you arrive to gradually. Meaning there is a certain contemplation, a certain looking, a certain in life too. In life too, you're living, trying this, trying that, and excuse me. And so there is a gradual aspect, but then the insight is sudden. You see. So I wouldn't categorize the path as being either sudden or gradual. It's both.
Yeah.
And life provides us with many opportunities, because we all have certain issues in life, whether it's with partners, with work, with our body, with our money, whatever. I mean, you know, or a combination. So life gives us an opportunity because we are looking for peace and happiness. And so how to live as that, how to arrive to a place in our life where life is also an expression of our inner understanding, you see. So, and this is what we talk about a lot, you know, during our meetings. We talk about you know, relationship, emotions, you know, things that occur to us, you know, how we are living, what is it that decides how to make decisions. So, and it's very important, I think, to, as much as possible, to not to live with an image of yourself, just to live as presence, just presence. And when there is a need to do something or to look at something, it will arise to you in presence. There'll be a knock on the door. And then as presence, you open the door. Or there'll be a thought that arises, gee, you know, I need to make an appointment with the dentist, whatever, you know. So it will arise for you. But very important that you don't cater to images about yourself or images about others. To be really as fresh as possible. You know, there is this painting of Bodhidharma crossing, is it the Yangtze River, I think, on a reed. I don't know if some of you may be familiar with that painting. So Bodhidharma is the patriarch that brought Buddhism from, I think, India to China. I think that's where it was. And the painting is he's crossing the river. He's like standing, and he's standing on a reed, a blade of grass. And the blade of grass is like that, and he's standing on the blade of grass, crossing the Yangtze River. I love this painting because it refers to, if you're standing on a blade of grass, you take any step to the right or to the left, you're off the blade, you know. So to be full presence, to be in presence, to be as presence, not to be in the past and the future, to live the moment by moment, image-free, freshly. So if an image arises, not to jump on that horse and ride it, not to jump on that bandwagon. If an image arises, it's just the windows, it's like a bird is flying past your window. You see a bird flying. You don't try to catch the bird. To be like that with images about yourself and feelings about yourself, because the feelings I try to They try to pin you down. They tell you, get on, come and fix me. So then you fall in the impression of time and space. Oh my God, what happened? How can I fix it? Oh, maybe I should do this. And, about the psychological. Psychological always is the illusory. It has to do with the imagined you. But you are not imagined. The reality of consciousness is you right now, this moment. You're not imagining you. We may be imagining this conversation, but the awareness isn't imagined. Awareness may imagine a dinosaur, may imagine a unicorn, may imagine this conversation, but awareness is not imagined. You say it's the reality of your experience.
Isn't awareness imagining a life in the body mind?
Awareness, you could say that the thought may arise that there is a life inside the body mind.
Yeah.
That's a thought. Okay. So this thought, yes, you could say this thought arises out of awareness. But also, and that's more important, awareness also brings up the thought, is this true?
Yeah.
Is this
right.
true? So when I say, is this true? There is life inside the body. Well, if there is life inside the body, heck, let's cut the body. Let's dig into this body. Let's find where the life is. All right. Who wants to volunteer their body? Volunteer your body. Dig through your body, find where this life is. Because if life is in the body, meaning it must be what, in the belly, in the lungs, in the brain, in the eyes, where they say. So when the doctors do what's the name when somebody dies and they autopsy? When they do an autopsy, they don't find the life inside the body. They don't. They find livers, kidneys, whatever they do. The mind. Okay, when you say maybe there is life in the mind, so I say, okay, maybe there is life in the mind. Okay, let's test it. We have to check it out. So we bring a mind. Where is the mind? Let's bring a mind. Okay. Hello, can somebody? How many of us here? Can somebody bring a mind? We need to find out if there is life in the mind. We cannot find a mind, right, Kelly?
Right.
We cannot find a mind. We find a thought. We find a perception. We find a sound, but we don't find a mind. So up to now, okay, my success rate of finding life within the body and the mind is 0. Right? It's 0.
Yes.
So, and okay, so what's the point? I mean, I'm not going to pursue this dead end. I am not going to pursue.
Am I?
Yes.
Well, have a good night. That should be all like the invoices or confusion stuff in there. Carrie dealt with it. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said.
I was saying that up to now, there is 0 evidence that there is life in the body mind. It's a story. Until somebody proves it, I'm available. I'm available for anybody to demonstrate to me, because I don't have a priori. I'm open, to anybody that can prove that there is life inside a body mind. You know what I mean? Have you ever discovered that for yourself?
No, I've read ideas about it.
Okay.
Theories.
No, it's better to read a good novel. I mean, I don't mind reading ideas that are based on fact, Like I like to look at pictures of our galaxy, because there is those telescopes up there, whatever they're taking pictures of the galaxies. It's beautiful. And they're facts, they're pictures, you know. But nobody has ever showed me a picture of life inside the body or inside the mind. That's why I look at pictures of the galaxies rather than Santa Claus.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It depends how life is defined. But to me, it all seems like consciousness.
Absolutely.
In everything.
You cannot
I mean,
kill life, you know. You cannot kill life.
No.
Life is, by its very definition, life is life. It's there isn't,
I mean,
life, and then suddenly this life becomes non-life. That would be quite a magical trick. Life suddenly, whoop, becomes non-life. No, life is life. It's absolute. It's only one candidate for life is consciousness. So another word for life, a better word for life is consciousness. But we confuse in ignorance. We say, oh, it is the body that is alive. There is life in the body. And that's ignorance. That's just a belief. It's complete BS.
right. Like even there's life and death.
Huh? Life what?
Like the idea of life and death is kind of
life and death.
It's baloney.
It is baloney. Life and death is baloney.
It's all consciousness.
Because absolutely. The reason why we speak of life and death is because we have made an assumption that life means the body, that life means that which appears. And that's why we say, well, that which appears disappears. So therefore, we say there is life and death. But that's because we have mistakenly appropriated reality to the instrument, to a body, which in our experience, we know from our experience that the body is basically perceptions, sensations, and images. We've never experienced a body outside of perceptions, sensations, and images. And sensations, perceptions, and images relate to I that perceives them, awareness which perceives them. And in fact, because that which we perceive is not out there, there is an intimacy between the object perceived and the perceiver. There is zero distance between the perceived and the perceiver. So therefore, we can say that the body, which is basically perceptions, sensations, and thoughts that refer to consciousness, which is perceiving them, but she's perceiving them at zero distance of herself. Consciousness is therefore not just perceiving something out there, it is perceiving itself at zero distance, it's conceiving within itself the world, body, mind. There is no external reality to consciousness, which we refer to as the world, as the body, as the mind, external. There is a world, body, mind, but the reality of the world, body, mind is consciousness. A good metaphor is in the night dream. In the night dream, you experience a world, body, mind. But in fact, there is no external reality to the world, body, mind that you experience in your dream outside of the dreamer.
Yes.
So it's really important to understand, to really truly understand what is being said, and to come to 100% certainty, not to say, well, yes, but what will happen when I die? Oh, yeah, I get it, but gee, my mother is dead. Where is she now? No, you need to come to complete yes, I'm clear about that. That I refers to consciousness, and consciousness is eternal and infinite. And there is no external reality outside of consciousness. And then you have to keep adjusting your life to match this understanding. Because if you have this understanding, you go back to, oh my God, what happened to my mother? Oh, what happened? What happened to my dog? Oh, my dog died. Oh, yeah. Then
So
your life is gonna be, I mean, life meaning the old model of living. If you're not living your understanding, whatever it takes for you to live your understanding, then your understanding means nothing. I mean, I don't mean it means nothing. It's not complete.
yeah, right.
So we go back to the story. Oh my God, how am I doing? You know, and how am I, you know, am I getting there? Man, you know, we are putting back those muddy shoes on, right? I mean, we have.
Well, there's no getting anywhere, right?
It's not honoring your understanding. You have to honor your understanding.
You think the hardest part is the relationships?
No, relationships are a great opportunity, provide a lot of opportunity.
Right. Yeah, I see that too.
To, you know, to live your understanding, to confirm, you know, to make your life become a confirmation of your understanding.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, you know, relationships, absolutely. It's God's gift, relationships. I mean, God made us to have relationships because it's of God's love, you know.
But I guess what I was thinking is, isn't it well, I'm projecting by saying this.
You didn't say
that, like, well, like relationships can sometimes feel like falling into ignorance, or like there was a fall, or like there was a temporary ignorance. But then when you realize it, you're out of it.
Well, you see, relationships are very interesting because on your own, you can get away with murder, you know. You can tell yourself any story and get away with it. But in relationship, you know, there is a it bounces back. I mean, there is a reply, and you know, there is a give and take. So your patterns meaning all patterns refer to, I mean, I'm not talking about the natural patterns of the body mind. You know, some people are more artistic, some people are more inclined towards sports. Well, no, I'm not talking about those patterns, the patterns of body mind, but the patterns of your belief structures, your habits, your places you defend, the places you get offended, and places people should not cross, and the way your partner should behave, and oh my God, look what they did, and your idea how they should think about politics, how they should think about the virus, how they should think about money, how they should think about art, all of that. You know, you can get away with it on your own, but when you're in a relationship, you see what I mean? It's.
Oh yeah, I mean, and But, like, this is kind of an artificial situation because I am not in contact with a lot of people right now still.
Well, okay. So, I mean, right.
But the news,
I was
just
talking
watching the news and
Oh.
being aware of reacting or not
Right.
is another
Yeah, absolutely.
learning tool.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's okay to have preferences and to have, certain leanings and so on, but not to take them seriously. Not to take them seriously. I mean,
right.
You are not the Lord over the universe, in terms of your personal, as a personal mind, No, you have your personal preferences. Gee, I don't like people to behave in that way, but you know what? Other people don't mind it.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I have issue with Republicans. There are a lot of people who like Republicans. I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
that's right.
Hey, look, welcome to welcome to the planet Earth. So, okay, Shiva. So, yeah, I mean, when you're alone, there's also a lot of stuff that's going on within you, worries, concerns. You're thinking about tomorrow. You're thinking about, oh, why did he do this? Why did she do that? Why did the government do this and do that? Or what's going to happen to me in the future? There's a lot of stuff always going on. The body mind is interconnected. The fact that you're not in a formal relationship right now, or in a with any particular relationship right now, you're in a relationship with the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening. We're in a relationship right now. I mean, your relationship, even when we say goodbye at the end of the satsang, relationship doesn't end. We are in relationship with the whole, they say. And that's the thing, is that when we come into a particular relationship, now there is a partner and we have a relationship with them. Now there are some particular questions that are being brought up, particular issues. When you're not in a relationship, you have many more issues that are coming up. So in a relationship, it becomes a little narrower, but maybe a little bit more intense sometimes. So I know you flip the coin, which one is worse?
Yeah, I am aware of that.
What Francis used to say, when we are in a relationship, we don't want to be in a relationship. When we're not in a relationship, we want to be in a relationship. And he's just like, how about like when we're in a relationship, just to want to be in a relationship, when you're not in a relationship, to want one, to sort of be on board with what's happening.
Yes, want what you have.
Yes, right. Right. Okay, Kelly.
Thank you.
Lovely talking with you. So, okay, everyone, very lovely to see you, Lena, and to be with you, and Kelly, Frank, and Charlie. Hello, Charlie. Holger. Hello, Holger. And John, and Marga, Zoe, and Harry. Okay.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Thank you.